Good morning, you sexy bitches. It's time to get your day off to a good start, and that's where we come in. Hopefully. I mean, that's, I wake up every morning hoping I can be the good start you need. As opposed to something shit that happens to you first thing in the morning. All right, well, do we have stuff to talk about today? I mean, I say that often, but it's because we always do. We've never, ever had a morning where I get here and go, I think that's it. I think we could wrap this up because really we've run out of the things that need talking about. Okay, before we get into any of that, they really are messing around in the studio this morning. I have no idea what they're doing. I think between the Mash and Dave and Ryan, it's like having the world's three most incompetent people in one room. Here they are. Here's Mash. Good. All right, there he is. And there's Dave Levinsohn.
Tweedledum and Tweedledummer.
So Dave, just hold on. Everybody knows Dave Levinsohn. He's been a part of the CliffCentral family for the longest time. I don't need to introduce you, do I? He is called...
family I've been in ever.
I know. He's called...
at Springs.
He's called Dave Levinsohn on Instagram. So... just explain what you've seen those two idiots doing for the last 20 minutes. That's why we're on late.
That you're leaving the studio, that it's been packed up.
I would take some of the responsibility. I mean, Mash, I know that you guys are busy packing things up there, so there might not be everything that we need. And we really are. We're getting out of that studio on Thursday, so our last show will be probably Thursday morning. But Dave, you haven't been there for... No, we're not being...
What the hell?
Mesh he's young. He doesn't know what forced removals were.
We're not being evicted. We're not being evicted, but that is hilarious. So what were they doing? Because we were meant to start the show at 6 and ended up going on at like 10 past.
We could hear you. You couldn't hear us, and I thought, well, isn't that you can just talk? No, we're not allowed to speak. You don't give us a chance to speak anyway.
So Gareth, like the 5 minutes before 6 a.m., I was busy saying, Gareth, let's go. Gareth, let's go. But
really?
You're just like doing your own thing, and I'm like, ooh, chair, I don't think
No,
can hear us.
I couldn't hear you guys. There was some setting that was wrong. Anyway, it's also embarrassing because it is like, between you and me and Ryan, it just looked like we didn't know what we were doing. And luckily, it's only Dave in the studio because Dave doesn't know what.
You get invited to tech conferences.
I know. I got asked to speak at South by Southwest, and I can't switch on my microphone. All right, so Dave, while we're talking about this move, so we made the big announcement a few weeks ago that we're moving to new premises, and it's very exciting. We're upgrading CliffCentral, and it's part of our whole new, kind of going to new places, doing new things. Kind of found these pictures, which I put up on Instagram and Facebook and everywhere else yesterday about when we moved in. We had a big sign outside saying under construction. We were building that new studio. You were there early on, right? You remember when we started?
Literally came to one of the first ones that you had. There was a comedy kind of podcast thing with Trevor Goomby.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was my first time, yeah. And it was high tech and fancy and clean and yellow.
Yeah, and we were doing... And at that stage, it looked like a beehive because of the yellow and black. And at that stage, we were doing, it was live satellite as well. So for, I think it was 3 weeks, we did the show live on satellite, which was the first time any show had been done on DSTV on satellite. And it was the first time we'd ever done a podcast. And it was the first time we'd ever done a streaming online radio show. And it was kind of like we were screwing around. We didn't know whether it would work, whether it wouldn't, whether people were watching or they were listening or whatever. I remember we had 1 million logins on that first day. It was absolutely incredible. 1 million different people logging in, which was...
If you consider today, if they did that, even with fiber and everything, it would still knock out a server or two.
Dude,
it was satellite.
I promise you, we had so much concern about redundancies and things, but my biggest worry wasn't like we'd have too many people. My worry, like, any comedian's worry is going to be like you'd have too few.
Content.
And no one would come. No, my worry was like no one would come. I was like, no, well, we've got lots to do, but I mean, who's going to come? And luckily, people came. So here we are.
I was one of the million. I was there. I mean, I think I might have even gone to someone's house because I wasn't rich enough to afford DSTV at that point.
Hey, Bo.
So I think I do remember tuning and getting in. And then at that stage, it was Balls Radio. Do you remember they also tried to do a visual radio with
Yeah,
so
they
that whole
did.
concept was ahead of its time. And then, like everything, it's like Betamax, VHS. Something happens, and then the one works and the other one doesn't.
Well, I'm glad you were there from the beginning. And the reason I bring all of this up with you here this morning is because in the production room, which I think is directly behind Dave in this picture, there's a little framed picture of, just see if you can find it, like that little, it's got a white frame around it. I think it's on the, and you are one of a set of balls of a show that you made. And what did you call the show?
It was the Just Now Comedy Podcast.
Oh, Dave, that's you, one of those balls.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
We were the tripod that kept the show together.
Wow.
I think we missed a trick with that show because now every man and his dog's got a podcast, and we took it for granted that we'll always have it, and that's one of the things in life. Like nothing is ever permanent, even you moving now. So we didn't really take advantage of it.
But you did a good job. I mean, for how long? You guys did that show for what, 2-3 years?
I'd say we did a good job purely because we just arrived on time, and then we'd sit outside here on the couch. He said, "What do we talk about today?" And I'm like, "I don't know."
It was.
We filled that. It was an hour. It was lovely.
It was kind of ahead of its time. Now every comedian is doing a show, and all of them are kind of on the same basis that you did your show. And I mean, you mentioned Trevor Gumby. That was really breakthrough stuff as well. There we go. There's just show them that picture. So there's a big cock. There's a big cock, and then there's you. Who's the other dude?
It's not that big. It's actually to scale. It's actually a tracing of mine.
Who's the other guy?
Eric Janssen.
Eric, of course.
Just Now Comedy Podcast. So that we were essentially that would have been the guests, and then we were the hosts.
Oh, okay.
You know what this reminds me of? This move that you're doing. You know that bumper sticker in the 80s that said, "Will the last person to leave the country please switch off the lights?"
Yeah, I remember that.
How redundant is that? How redundant is that bumper sticker? Like you don't have to switch off the lights now. And if you're leaving the country, the reason why you're leaving the country is because the lights don't fucking work.
Yeah, absolutely. It says that Dave and Mash are soft. I must turn them up. Are the levels okay there, Mash?
The levels are good this side.
Right, good.
Right.
Signet says, I remember watching the live show on Comedy Central, and I got a fright when I saw Damon Calvari for the first time. Don't worry. You.
So most people do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Moonchild says,
I'll just talk closer.
I used to enjoy Dave's podcast. Very amusing. Very, very amusing. Very amusing.
The weird thing is, as it went, we started doing those radio things where we had that little clock that they teach you at radio school, where we actually put timing in. We got guests in. We actually started becoming quite organized, but that took away the zaniness of it. I preferred the craziness when we'd have guests in that didn't know what they were talking about. It was a mess.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't just bring in other comedians. You had very weird people on there. All of our shows had very weird. I remember my show used to have completely, like, we still do. We still get these bizarre people on from time to time.
As a comedian, whenever you're on a radio, TV show or something, you try and do something memorable or try and, have you ever interviewed Mark Banks?
Oh, he's amazing.
Chaos.
No, but
it adds value.
He cannot focus. Mark Banks is probably one of South Africa's most famous comedians, just in case you don't know, or there's someone in the audience that doesn't know.
Poster boy for adult ADHD.
This guy, when he gets in, when he gets into the show and he gets onto the live broadcast, he takes it in 300 different directions. What you have to do with Mark Banks is just leave him alone. Let him wax about all kinds of nonsense, and he will make people laugh. You don't have to try and control him. He's not the kind of guy who, when you interview him, you have to have a set of questions or prepare things in your head or try to get into his head. Or it's not going to happen.
And there's also, you think he's drowning, so you think you're going to throw in a question with him, and he's not drowning. He's fully in control of the chaos.
He's a nutcase.
Yeah, probably.
Total nutcase. So, Dave, how are you?
Those were fun times.
How are you? What's been happening with you?
Well, I'm looking at you moving. It's quite interesting because I've moved about 4 times the last few months. Mostly probably because I got evicted.
Yeah, I was going to say that because you actually were evicted. Yeah,
I thought I was a nice guy. Then when you read the letter from the landlord, you go, "Jeepers, It's kind of makes you wake up about perception of what people think about you. So you can walk into the room and think, I'm looking good, I'm the man. And then ask 10 people's opinion of you. I'm like, jeeps, I'm an absolute fucking idiot.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No. So I had a friend of mine sleeping on my couch, and she charged me 300 Rand a night for my friend sleeping on the couch. And he's just a guy who needed an interview in Joburg, and he came and stayed at my place. 300 Rand a night on the couch.
Your landlord charged you for having someone in your place that you're already paying for. That's insane. Where was this?
And I spoke to in Kailami. But then I spoke to Andrew and I said, 300 Rand a night, you slept on my couch. I should have fucked him.
Wait. Dave, let's take several steps back. Let's start from the top.
No, let's not.
So,
let's not.
In terms of the landlord, what was this? What was the living arrangement?
Just a cottage in Kailami. But anyway, that's now the only. I found a new place and a new life. But the things, as you said, how you doing? I've got my son living with me now, so he's moved from Cape Town to Joburg. So that's kind of put a Bunsen burner up my ass.
Wow.
I'm working much harder at the home selling thing than I am at the comedy thing. But I can't stop being funny. It's not like it's just you switch it off. But yet, being funny and selling homes is actually quite cool as well.
Are you? What are you? An estate agent?
I work at Remax. I'm qualified. I qualify in about a couple of months' time.
Lovely.
As an actual agent.
I would like an estate agent who has a sense of humor. Most of them are dreary, dull people, and they just lie. At least with you, you're going to get some comedy thrown in, you know?
No, you do. It's not always going to be a plus.
I mean,
most people phone the boss and go, that one agent of yours, is he okay?
Yeah, some of them, you think they're on crack or something, because they'll be smiling, showing you the ugliest bathroom on earth. With the biggest smile, like, oh, this one has a flushing toilet. And it's like, okay.
Everyone's got to, I don't even go into the house. I'm not going to tell someone what a toilet is.
Yeah, you just said,
when they come out, I'm like, what do you think? And they go, I'm like, oh, let's go next one. But I'm not saying I've sold a trillion houses, because as you can see, I'm still doing comedy. So I've still got my comedy nights that I do, and I've still got my things. But it's the old thing. Keep different streams of income. You're not going to make it in this world if you haven't got a couple of streams.
But you apparently you're also doing singing now.
We still myself and Keenan Arison, I don't know if you know him, he's an actor, great actor as well.
Yeah,
we were taking some electric plants one night at Kurt Schoonraad's house, and we had this karaoke machine there, and we started singing, and Kurt was sitting there, and after about an hour of singing the songs, he goes, guys, this is better than most corporate events that I've been to, because I was talking shit and being funny, and Keenan was singing the song. He said, this is a show. There's a show here. So we started thinking about it. About 12 years later, we eventually came up with a thing called the Vegas Nights, which is like that old crooner style, Sammy Davis and Dean Martin kind of chats in between the songs. Don't know if you remember them. Most of the people go and watch them for the chats.
But again, I love that idea. And I mean, you've obviously got a good singing voice as well. So you wouldn't be able to.
I think it surprised me and the people, because I didn't really do a lot of the singing. So the voices that I can do are almost impersonations rather than singing. So you don't have to sing. Yeah.
Dude, how many serious singers, in inverted commas, do we know who are exactly like that? They're actually doing an impersonation. Yeah. I mean,
so it's just fun to dress up like Frank Sinatra, dress up like Elvis, do things, and then do a mashup of different things. Do ABBA in an Elvis voice. So it's just fun.
Hasn't Tony Bennett pretty much made an entire life out of just doing an impersonation of Frank Sinatra? I mean, that's kind of how it's worked for Tony Bennett, right? I know I'm going to piss people off, but I think that
it's amazing how these days you can say something like about the government or racist or economics, but the most complaints you get is if you say like Taylor Swift sucks. Then you get
how deep.
Then you get the comment section blowing up. So Tony Bennett, but Tony, is he still alive?
So listen, I want you to just remind people, because it's one of my favorite things while we're reminiscing and being nostalgic in the old studio for the last few days. Those Friday mornings that you used to be there for, you remember Fridays, it would be my show, then my show would end, then it would be the sex show, wasn't it?
After ours was the sex show, yeah. We were the warm-up. No, we were the lube for the sex show.
Yeah, you were there first. Then there was the sex show. Then there was Casper de Vries. And after Casper, there was O'Neill, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And basically, you could sit there, on a Friday morning, you could sit there and you would see everything that was hilarious and funny and ridiculous and insane between 8 o'clock in the morning and 4 in the afternoon. It would just be absolute madness. Every Friday would be there'd be wild animals. There was once a cheetah that was brought in on a leash, followed by 2 pole dancers who went completely naked. Then there was the sex show, which was
the pole dancers were before the sex show.
The sex show where they had a woman squirt in studio while John T had like half his arm up her. Then there was
what was weird? We weren't allowed to drink beer in the studio, and I came to you and said, Gareth, can I talk to you about the non-drinking of the beer in our studio? This lady's gonna have some vaginal juices on your very expensive Technics equipment. I suppose it's just relative.
Oh,
I hope it wasn't one of John's relatives.
You know, can I tell you what? I'm more proud of that stuff than I am of any of the like pioneering, broadcasting bullshit that people throw around all the time. That, like, if I think about those insane days with Trevor Gumby and Casper and you guys, and that makes me happy. Genuinely gives me.
What was nice is that there was a serendipitousness about it. Is that a word? That there wasn't a planned thing. So you could see Rena was like looking at it side eye because she came from a real part of radio. And then you were like, just let it go. Let's see give them enough rope to hang themselves. And that's what's missing now. When you watch Joe Rogan when he first started, there was this crazy wildness where the guy would come in and David Icke or whoever it was. Now it's quite planned, and you need to have a booking, and you need to know what you're doing, and it's all very thing. So you kind of miss that circusness of it.
Well, I mean, for him, he's cashed in now, which is only right. He's been building this thing for, I think he started 5 or 6 years before we started. So he's been going at it a while. And I'll tell you what, there comes a point where you go, all right, if there isn't a payday somewhere around this corner, I don't know if I want to keep on doing this, So I get it. A tipping point. I get it from him. But there are other people who are picking up the slack, and there are plenty of good podcasts around these days. You haven't been tempted to start your own?
That's when I came in here, I looked at it and I thought, shit, did I miss on the carousel on the boat? And yet, if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. So to start it up, technically, you've got to be 100%. If you got the content, that's cool. So in a way, I'm a little bit sad that I haven't started my own podcast, but then there's plenty of others to be on. So I'd rather just carry on doing the other stuff. If it's not in you, it's not in you. I couldn't set it up myself.
Well, the hardest part of any TV, radio, podcast show is that you have to do it consistently. You have to be there every day or at least once a week, at least. Yeah. And you have to make sure you do it. You miss one show in terms of if you have a weekly show and all people are waiting for is that once a week update, and you don't give it to them.
Even if you started a little bit late this morning, you might have lost 3 or 4 people going, well, fuck, he's not there.
Yeah.
So I haven't started my own podcast, and I saw Skalk Bezadino's got a new one on now. Not a new idea, but he's talking to comedians and famous people's mothers. Just because that's where the truth lies. So it's called Every Man and His Mom or something. Every podcast. Yeah,
he invited me onto that, and I'm like,
is it sponsored already? So before he's even started, so he's already on that level of that. Whereas if I was in my lounge doing a podcast, I don't know. I'm not. I'm having fun doing the state agent stuff, and I'm loving the singing. It's actually changed the whole thing. It takes so much pressure off you when you don't have to do a joke because the song's already written.
Yeah,
so I can do the jokes in between.
There are lots of people here talking about that the sex show, and we should really get Jonty back on. Ryan, you should take note of that. We must maybe
do a retrospective of all the people that we hear.
Yeah, we should do like
is Tony Bennett alive?
Tony Bennett,
I think he died recently.
I think he's still alive.
Yeah.
Do you remember Tony Factor?
No, who was Tony Factor? Remind me.
He owned a chain of furniture shops back in the 80s, and he used to do radio ads. And this was his voice. So he'd say, come down to Tony Factor's tomorrow. We've got some couches and some lovely wall units. Only 17 Rand 80. Pay it off over 6 months. That was Tony Factor.
Isn't there also that guy who does the...
How would you do radio voices if that was your...
Hang on. There was a guy, because we did go through a stage in advertising where the owner... The owner had to do the ad, right?
And they called him Chubby Checker, and he was the MD of Checkers. He also did his own ads.
Clive Wheel was his name.
Wheel. He had a good idea though. But he was one of those guys. Why hire an ad agency when you can? But I can do this. I'll just walk through where's the camera? Yeah, all right, let's go.
It's my shop.
Yeah.
We were a
very good idea though. Chubby Checker, they called him.
we remember them. So,
It's the same
obviously,
as Hirsch's with Lucy. Lucy's the owner of the company.
Correct.
You do your own voiceovers, don't you? You're pretty good.
Wasn't there? There's also one other dude who does I haven't heard him in years, but I think he owns some kind of linen company. So like red linen.
Volpes.
I don't know what it is. Anyway, he also, if you were to buy some linen, buy from me.
How are you doing, Gareth? What are you doing?
I'm all right,
I
dude.
had a good conversation about you the other day with Kurt Skinrod, and he gave you a compliment in terms of what you do. We do so many radio interviews where all of a sudden we'll arrive there, that radio DJ decides to launch his comedy career the day that you're there. So instead of asking you questions about what gigs you've got coming up, how much the gig is, where is it, they decide they're going to be funny now. Then you're like, okay, well, I'll just sit back. And with you at least pass the ball and you go research-wise, you know what you're saying, and then the comedian can be funny and do their shit. So maybe it's in your nature, but maybe you've also learned how to do it over the years.
I think the most important thing about having a show like this and getting people on is letting them have their say. Otherwise, why bother having them? I mean, there are people who do their own show where it's just them. They don't have a guest. They sit there for half an hour, and they will do news, they'll do commentary, they'll do all that stuff. I think it's amazing. And there are some tremendously talented people who could do that. I just don't find it as entertaining as conversation. There has to be a bit of turn.
So what do you think? Argument with a friend of mine about Prince
for a while.
Hey,
Nash, sorry,
Nash, talk to us.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do a show on your own. That sounds kind of boring. To me, you need a bit of spice. You need something different apart from yourself. But Dave, I like many of the audience haven't been following your career quite as closely. So I'd just like to find out, how many years have you been in comedy for?
It's about 22.
Oh, as old as me, basically. When I was a sperm cell in that a bull sack
1999
as well.
99.
Wow, that is impressive.
So here's the thing, Nash, if that's your real name. If you want to be good at something, all you have to do is just keep doing it. And eventually the other people either die or stop doing it. So you'll actually become, so someone said, you must be in one of the top 20 comedians in the country. And I'm like, how's that? Who even works that out? There's not like there's a radio show that you've slipped down 3 places because you weren't funny on Wednesday. But eventually you'll be one of the comedians that you have to be. It's Mark Raine, Kurt Skinrod, Dave Levinsohn, Mel Miller's still alive.
Yeah.
And yet there's a whole bunch of new guys coming through that are in the top 400. We don't have anywhere to perform, but that's maybe why you haven't seen it, because where are the comedy clubs? MASH.
Yeah.
Is there still nothing going on in the world of comedy clubs? Because
there's small restaurants and little places. So even last night there were a couple of gigs, but in Melville, and I just don't feel like going to Melville and getting mugged. But it was there's small little clubs where it's like almost like back in the 90s where we started.
Mugged? You'd be lucky to not get raped.
Speaking of getting mugged, I actually saw an article last night. Last night I was just up and about, and I got home a bit later, I must confess, but I came across this article at about 11 p.m. and I'm going to read it to you quickly. It is ridiculous. So the headline says, 3 men on the run after police commander hijacked and robbed. And this absolutely blew my mind, because I thought to myself, how are we supposed to feel safe when the freaking police commanders are getting robbed right now? How are we supposed to feel safe?
No, you're not. You're not. Listen, it's always, this is a funny thing that people don't seem to understand. Human civilization, like the fact that things work and they don't, is on such a knife's edge the whole time. Everybody thinks, well, there's this huge buffer zone between like people falling into complete anarchy and chaos on one hand, and order and like a civilized society on the other. It's actually like paper thin. You could see it with ESCOM, for example. When it's working, you take it for granted. It's all good. There are people who know what they're doing, engineers. It's being managed properly. Someone's doing the finances. They're charging the right amount for the electricity. Plant is being maintained, all that stuff. And then little things start to go wrong, and boom, suddenly you've got no power. And then it's a big fuck up. And it's the same for everything. Law and order, same for justice. It's the same for water. It's the same for people going to vote. It's everything in society. It all just is on a very, very thin edge. And the difference between like Afghanistan and what's one of the most rule-bound, orderly, probably like an Australia or New Zealand.
Scandinavian country.
Or Scandinavia. Good example. The difference between a Norway and an Afghanistan is like actually not as big as you would think it was. It's not that big a difference. If there are a few people in society who are holding things together, it can be in Norway. If they're not enough, or there are bad ones, it can be in Afghanistan. It's that simple. And Mash, it's not surprising in a country like ours that like even the police are looked at as targets these days. Because people are hungry, man. And where else are they going to get money? They look around, they're like, that policeman has a hot lunch. I think I'll help myself to some of that.
Do you know where those societies work best? And it's so sad and scary is when the policing is done by the humans. We saw it with COVID when people shouted you for not wearing a mask or if you went running. In Australia, as a South African, have you ever crossed the road when there's no cars? And you're like, well, I'm going to go. And the people who frown at you and go, you don't cross the road, man. Don't do it. Walking. So that policeman is the same as that story when you see it says ex-athlete or ex-Springbok athlete shoots rhino. So you don't realize that he's not going to be a Springbok athlete for the rest of his life. He's going to be a human at some point.
Yeah.
So that man, whoever he's a police commander, he's got this humanness to him where he's just lost it. He's gone off the rails. But that's as a human being. I bet you he's pretty good at his job as a commander. Just every now and then he steals a car and some stuff.
Yeah.
It's just a little blip on his CV where he's like, tomorrow morning he comes through and goes, my bad.
Absolutely. Here's Congo Chris saying the veneer of society is much thinner than we'd like to admit. And he uses the example of the KZN and Fees Must Fall riots. And that's exactly right. It can all fall apart very, very quickly.
So it's a broken window syndrome. Have you ever read that book?
Yeah. Yes,
in Chicago, those buildings with the windows, where if one window was broken, within 3 months, you walk past, like, I'm going to throw a stone in one of those.
It wasn't
those buildings never got touched.
It was New York. It was New York, and it was Rudy Giuliani.
The docks, okay.
Yeah, and he was the one who said, he became mayor of New York, and he said, if you tolerate broken windows on a public street, and you tolerate people breaking those windows, and you don't fix them immediately, everything around them starts to disintegrate, which is why often I'll go on about like litter on the side of the road.
That's where it starts.
Because to me, you cannot be a society that expects people to be treated with human dignity when the people in the society don't even have the dignity to clean up in their immediate environment. Like just in the space that just where you are, like if your office is dirty, if your bedroom is dirty, if your yard is dirty, then you can't expect like government to fix your problems because you can't even solve the little space around.
If you've never offered $100 to a traffic cop, then you can't stand up in the public forum and go, I believe corruption. I'm like, but you don't. And then keep it tidy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's not get into all the heavy stuff all at once.
My friend was mugged last night, so that's why it's weird to talk about it because I really love the guy, and it's just on the beach in Tableview,
What?
So it's horrible. Yeah, Mark Vessel's great photographer, had his phone stolen, but he also was beaten up. So it's not. I understand sometimes you go, hey, take my stuff, I can get it insured, whatever. But in front of his family, so now at least they're looking for the guy. But I mean, it's just this is a walk on the beach on Sunset Beach at 7:30 in Cape Town, still light.
Dude, that's
and it's
horrible.
Just that was now. So I just said to him like, be strong and keep going. Because if you speak to someone after they've been mugged or something, they talk about the country in a whole different way.
Yeah, that's true.
You start bringing up all kinds of things like, well, that's and that. But he's just such a mellow, calm, humility dude. He's not even talking about he didn't mention any color of anyone or anything that did it to him. He just said it was just a horrible experience.
I'm thoroughly shocked because I also didn't want to go home for a couple of years to my family in Clarksdorp because somebody tried to break into my car outside the police station. And after that experience, I just didn't go home the whole year. My family's like, you just can't avoid us forever.
Kurt used to talk about the ADT guards outside the police station in Mitchell's Plain. That the police station's guarded by Fidelity guards.
I mean, there's no escaping it. We're just surrounded now. The police, everybody is a victim. We're all just victims.
Do you follow the good news guys on the other side of the spectrum?
Yes.
Where they try and look for good news and stuff. And it's amazing they're doing so well finding the good things. Because we can talk about these things.
let's just talk about that for a second, because I was talking to a friend of mine and he said to me, that's bullshit. Like, you know how, and I've often tried it and we do get it right some of the time, I think. But you know, everybody says, oh, I'm tired of all the bad news. I would love to listen to something where people just give me something inspiring. And the funny thing is, like, people say that, but when you do the good news stuff, those people they never listen. Your ratings don't go up, and people don't send you emails saying, "Oh, thanks for doing all that good news stuff." Yeah. No one has ever emailed the show and said, "Oh, you know, that show that you did, especially for all of us who love positive news the other day, we loved it." There's never an ounce of feedback from those people.
So do you know where that comes from? That's your caveman brain.
Yeah,
because you can't survive in the cave. If I come to the cave and I say, geez, I smelled the most beautiful flower. And you come to the cave and say, I just saw a saber-toothed tiger. You're like, okay, my survival instincts are kicking in. I become stronger. I go one level up.
Yeah.
You go smell the flower and you get killed by the saber-toothed tiger. I needed that news. I love the flower.
And you know what you remember? You don't remember the flower story at all. You remember the saber-toothed tiger. It's the only thing on your mind.
I have to survive.
So people can't, you know, when people say to me, oh, you know, and I mean, we try to give a fair balance of good and bad, because there's equal amounts of good and bad in the world, and it depends on what you look for. You know, we speak to Dr. Hanan Bushkin every Monday, and he tells us it's the coin theory. What are you concentrating on? What are you spending your time and your effort on? And if you're focused on the negative stuff the whole time, it will pull you down. The reality is, when people say, oh no, we only focus on the positive news, all that happens is those people who love the positive stuff, or say they love the positive stuff, they pretend to be there for a short while and then they disappear. And then the bad news people
have you got those friends who don't watch the news? They kind of go, I don't watch the news. So when I go on stage, I go, what comedy do you do? So then I'm thinking, like, should I talk about all these things? So I hate talking about the pandemic. I don't talk about load shedding. I don't talk about things that I'll talk about the subtleness underneath that, where I'm getting caught for my license disc not being up to date. But there's a guy on a small little piece of wood skateboard with 17 tons of recycling just skating past me.
Yeah.
On my road.
Right.
Sensibly, my road, because I paid for William Nicol because in the 70s I obviously put some tax money aside for William Nicol. But the contrast then, I'd rather do that, to say to the cop, well, where's his license disc? Because his vehicle's bigger than mine, and his wheels, and he's braking with his foot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I like to do that rather than to talk about the government. And then, because people go, do you talk about Jacob Zuma on stage? I'm like, why? No. So that's the coin thing. I rather not concentrate on that stuff. So maybe my job as a comedian is to make you laugh and go, well, that's interesting. I didn't see it that way, or the slanted view of everything. Because I can't. It gets you down immediately. Talk about that shit.
Yeah, and you know, Dave, one thing about South Africans in particular is we love gossip. We love indaba zabantu. We love people's business. We all up in everybody's business. And we like pretending, saying, oh, can we just have some positivity for once in a while? But once the positivity comes, we don't even retweet it. We don't retweet it. We don't share it.
Give me an example of something that happened. Something good. Go. It's your turn. You got the stick. You've got the talking stick.
Okay, something good that happened. The KFC couple was the last good thing I remember. It was like 3 years ago.
Oh my God, that was the only positive thing that Twitter's ever done.
Ever in this country. Apart from that, we're just gossiping, sharing people's nudes, exposing who cheated on who with who.
I haven't been on Twitter for 2 years. I don't know anything about this.
It's become wild. It's the Wild West up in there, Dave.
But as a comedian, I didn't do the Twitter anymore, because you know me well enough to know that everything I say has got a tinge of irony or just hasn't a sarcasm. I'm not interested in the story. I don't even know. So I'll comment on it, but the way that I speak, I'll be like, oh boy, here we go. But what you read is like, oh boy, here we go. Just an old man. It's an old man sigh. I'm just go like, if I can't type it, it's this noise. So as an older person, when someone's talking and you go, I've seen this shit before, it's just disguised, and you make that noise, you go, so I can't type that. I can't type that because that's what I want to type on Twitter all the time, and I just see it and I go, oh, like Archie Bunker. Do you remember him? It was a TV show where he would get up out of his seat.
Is there not an emoticon that we can use, or an emoji or something that we can use for that noise?
I also want something on Facebook that goes, yeah, I'm okay with that. I don't want to like it. I'm not fully 100%. I just want a button that goes, yeah, I don't really like you, but I'll be friends with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a dislike now on Twitter, so you can.
But that's too much because I've disliked many people, and then 10 years later they've stopped and helped me change a tire.
Yeah, you got to be so careful. Like, also, you don't need to have an opinion on everything, right?
So here's the problem: a fact won't get you the likes, but an opinion will get you 20 million. And that was my issue with Twitter, where you'd say the thing and be like, "Oh, okay, that's interesting."
Well, this is the funny thing about people, right? There could be a guy who's currently working on a cure for cancer, and maybe he even finds the cure for cancer, and he'll get about 10 minutes of curiosity and interest across the internet for, maybe a day or two, and then people will accept that the cure for cancer is the standard, and we should all have that. This guy will disappear off, and there'll be some loudmouth with a political opinion who, I don't know, supports or doesn't support Donald Trump, or cares or doesn't care about.
He'll get the eyeballs.
He'll get the eyeballs, not the cancer cure guy. The cancer cure guy should be the only person we talk to for a year. But you know what people are like. They'll go to like trust.
If that cancer cure comes in the form of a vaccine, that guy's fucked already.
That is true. I saw there was something trending, kind of good actually, on Twitter about 2 days ago. There was I don't know if this is fake news or not. Can the audience please help me Snopes this? But because it is from Twitter, so you never know. But there was a rock found in Congo that basically just produces power, and they just
that as well. I don't know if it's true though. It looks like it could be bullshit.
It sounds a bit fake newsy. So please Snopes that, audience, and let's see.
There's a rock that makes power.
What are you doing there, Dave? Are you taking a selfie?
I remind myself of Dan Nickel, who spends about 20 minutes before every show just doing socials, and then it's done. He gets it out of the way, and then he can be normal. Whereas when you're talking to someone normally and they go, "Just wait, I just have to film for Instagram," you're like, "Fuck you, I was talking to you, man."
Yeah. No. It's like it's my least favorite interruption is when you're actually having a good time with a bunch of people, and then someone will go, "Let's take a picture."
No, let's do it. And then the cameras, and let's do a boomerang.
Or like, don't eat. Don't touch that food yet. I have to take pictures. Don't touch that drink. I have to take pictures first.
But seriously, is there this new rock they've discovered in the Congo that Lebank says is vibranium?
That's from Wakanda.
It is from Wakanda.
I
think we are so hungry for anything that can give us electricity at the moment that we would love to believe that there's a rock that can generate.
The Mesopotamians had those jars. Remember, they found them, and there was some oil in some of them, and the guy drew a line across the top, and he said, "These are in series, and that's a light bulb." You're like, go.
Holy shit.
The Mesopotamian Electric Company was typed on the bottom of the vase. That's how they knew. Are you an archaeologist? No, it's on the bottom of the thing, mate.
All right, I don't want to depress anybody, but we've got to look at a couple of news stories. Do you mind if we quickly do that? Just to give us an idea of what's going on in the world, so we're paying a little bit of attention. So first things first, Cyril Ramaphosa says, I hate starting with him every day, but here we go. He says that the red tape that they have around things has hampered Eskom's maintenance and the supply of additional megawatts from other sources. Why would we have red tape, Cyril? Is it because your party keeps stealing everything that isn't taped down?
Can I tell you what's keeping Eskom together? It probably is red duct tape on some of the valves.
Probably.
That's what's keeping it all together there.
He says, when we are supposed to do things, there is regulation, law, and processes. Who puts regulation, law, and processes in place, Cyril?
That guy.
Politicians. That's who. Who's the legislature, the parliament? Their whole job is to create regulation, law, and processes. So this is like someone looking in the mirror and going, "You have got to stop your shit."
Oh.
It's you.
If you have a sign outside your house that says "Beware the dog," and then the dog bites you inside the house.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. That's what's going on. All right. So we're not going to go into too much detail on that one, but it's just another stupidity from the people who are supposed to be our leaders. The Japanese prime minister has warned that their country is on the brink of falling over in terms of their birth rate. Apparently, the prime minister said it's a case of now or never. The population's 125 million. It's estimated that fewer than 800,000 births occurred last year. In the 1970s, that figure was more than 2 million. Birth rates are slowing in many countries, including Japan's neighbors. The issue is particularly acute in Japan as life expectancy has risen in recent decades. So people are living for longer, but they're having no children, and these old people need to be paid for. You know, these older people need to be looked after by a social system.
I'm agreeing with that.
Right? I mean,
who is the Prime Minister of Japan?
His name.
No, who is the Prime Minister of Japan?
Oh, who is?
That's not his name, is it?
No, but my son and I do that for hours. He'll go, who, and then if he's going through, if he's woke, then it'll be they is the Prime Minister of Japan.
So it's Kishida is the Prime Minister of Japan. Kishida.
The birth rates are actually a massive thing because now they've got this new idea of these birth pods where you can grow up to 30,000 embryos through birth. Well, this
really?
is what they reckon they're going to have to do, because then that group they'll work it out with all these actuarial people. Go, how many births do we need this year to maintain the 80, 90-year-olds next year? So they'll do in the 40 years. So they'll do these births now. They'll control the births. We need 30,000 babies today.
Oh, so we need 30,000 babies today to maintain the production of Samsung phones.
But who's going to raise? It's not just creating the lives.
That's where the massive thing is. You can't have a big 30,000 pod thing like the Matrix.
No.
And who raises those kids?
It's not just organic beings. We don't need more people who are just alive. We need people who are actually raised properly by parents who give a shit about them. So apparently, Japan is on the verge of whether or not they could continue to function as a society. He says that he eventually wants the government to double its spending on child-related programs. But what they need to do is actually persuade Japanese people to have more sex and to raise kids and to get married and to, do the stuff that makes a population.
When you say child programs, you mean like Takalani and...
Well, that's what you think, right? It's so ridiculous.
But Gareth...
So there should be a campaign. Are you Japanese? Have sex tonight.
There was something similar to that. They actually, I don't know if this is fake news, but I remember seeing this on Twitter. I take everything I see on Twitter with a grain of salt. But they actually launched some pods in Japan on the side of the road where you can just go for a quick cloof quickly and come out. They were actually encouraging young people to have more sex.
But most people were just using the pod for a wank.
Probably.
Pretty much,
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably that's what guys would do, right?
Do you know what's weird is a historical fact. What causes population growth, it's weirdly enough, is war. So, because although you'd think that people would die, what happens is 18-year-olds go to war. So 18, 19, 20s, those are the fighting age. The ones that stay behind and the other ones that come to fight that war are 18 and 19 as well. And they're just raping and pillaging and doing everything. So your birth rates go up after the war. Yeah, because everyone's like that's the biggest problem in Ukraine and Russia as well, where people they kind of assume that rape is also part of the war. It's the biggest weapon, in fact.
Well, there's also an evolutionary reason why humans kick into breeding mode when there's a war, is because they realize that their population's under threat. You see, when we get too comfortable, as has happened in parts of the world, there are certain countries where people live fairly comfortably. They've also they're single because they don't see the need to complicate their lives with kids or whatever else. So they're living a soft life. And until your life gets hard, you don't feel like you need to worry about the next generation because your generation's fine. And you're like, oh, well, I don't have kids. So there's an evolutionary reason why when there's war, it jerks the whole society into like, oh my God, we better make more people. And we better ensure our survival.
So Japan's on the brink of possible war then to get their population up. So you just need America to find oil there and they're fucking back in the game.
Well, listen, I mean, Japan's constantly under threat. North Korea always pointing their missiles at them. There's that fight over certain islands in the North China Sea, which the Chinese and the Japanese have been at each other's throats for the longest time. In fact, I think probably the last 40 or so years have been the only fairly sustained period of peace, even though they're still not particularly great friends, between Japan and China for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So apparently So what they're doing is, and the other problem in Japan, by the way, is that they don't allow you to immigrate there. They are not interested in immigration at all. If you want to move to Japan, you got no chance unless you marry someone Japanese. Even then, they might not give you citizenship. You can't apply. Like if you apply to move to Japan, it's the only country that just says, "I'm sorry, no, you're not born here. We're not having you. Sorry,
No,
out."
thank you.
No, they don't care. And everybody always goes, "Oh, it's so unfair what America, they won't let all those Mexicans in who are desperate to get in, or South Africa with all your Zimbabweans, you guys are really horrible to them." Meanwhile, Japan is like, "Sorry, we're not having
even
any."
want you here.
Is Yoko Ono Japanese?
Yeah, she is.
So they're okay with exporting then.
Oh yeah.
And you know, another thing that's much more different nowadays is the fact that back then, talking to old people, I talk to a lot of old people all the time, and talking to some of them.
We want to talk to you, but we want to actually ask you about that.
Talking to Dave Levinsohn right now.
And a lot of them tell me that a lot of them have well, they haven't told me this, but I've concluded basically the same thing for all of them, and that is, in their generation, having lots of kids, having lots of grandkids was a way to, how can I put this? Sort yourself out in your older years. Know that you'll be taken care of. They always kept that in mind. Nowadays, we are so well educated and we have access to all this information that I'm like, I'm gonna get an annuity and a unit trust together, an annuity fund. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take care of myself. I'm working to take care of myself when I'm older. I don't need no kids taking care of me. So because of the access to information nowadays, we also don't feel that pressure to have lots of kids, to have lots of grandkids, just for the sake of being taken care of. Lots of Black people can tell you this. Black tax is a thing, Gareth. Black tax is a thing. We raised you. You owe us now. And it is something that many Black people, I myself, actually, my parents are like, "Bon, I know you want nothing from me," but I know low key, they're like, "Bon, give us some money." And I know it is coming. It is coming. The day is coming. I'll show up in a blue Beamer one of these days, and they'll be like, Mesha, you don't give us money, but you know, it's coming. So that is another big reason why a lot of people were having lots of kids back in the day. We're educated now, y'all. Let's go open some unit trusts. Let's go invest. Let's invest wherever. Let's go sort ourselves out.
That's so true. And Dave, you'll remember this too. Do you remember when people were talking about the population explosion and what are we going to do when Earth is full? And now here we are, and we're talking about a population crisis rather than a population overload. And all those people who said, "Oh, there are too many people on the planet and we'll all be dying of starvation because there won't be enough food." Well, that's clearly bullshit, right?
So then there's your veneer. Take that veneer on everything that you hear. It's got to just come from somewhere that's teaching you nothing. So that includes the power issue. That includes everything that you hear. You got to go, hang on, where's it coming from? Is there a shortage of power and oil?
And do we have, and don't believe all this nonsense about that human beings won't figure some way out with climate change thing. You know, the only way we're going to solve anything to do with climate change is some clever guy or some clever girl or some clever group of people are going to get together and figure out the easiest way to take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, or to cool the earth down by a degree, or warm it up by a degree, or whatever we need. And we will get that clever. We will figure that out, just like we figured out with fertilizer. We could grow more food. We could have more people on Earth. And that it is sustainable. It's totally sustainable. I mean, here's the whole point being made for me in a much more eloquent fashion by Congo Chris, who says population collapses are the next big crisis, not climate change. It's happening in Russia, China, the USA, slowly happening all over the world as people delay or disregard having a child. Boom. Spot on. So
also what you said is exactly true. So generational tendencies. So now you talk about unit trusts and we're growing these things. Not you speaking way ahead of what most kids are doing. There's hardly any influencers are going open a unit trust. They're going buy this makeup. So
that's true.
Where did people live during COVID? Especially continental people. So my Portuguese friends, Italian friends, they moved in with their families. And Nonna lives in the back room, and the 8 of them were in the house. That's nothing new. How many? I mean, most of my Italian friends, the generations, 3 of them still live on the property.
I know it's 7:00. We got to wrap this up, and we'll carry on in the next hour. But I do want to just finish off on this and ask you a question. Like, do you think all of that population explosion propaganda that we were exposed to as kids? Because Mash, you're a bit young to remember this, but do you remember everybody was saying that too many people, Earth is overpopulated? I wonder how much of a psychological influence that had on our generation having kids. How many people of your age, my age, maybe a little bit younger and a little bit older, decided not to have kids because they were constantly told in their childhoods that the earth is full?
So that could have been that's the best ever. That's one of the best propagandas ever then, because it fucked up an entire generation. Although I have kids all over the country. I have like 12 kids. I'm like Steve.
But you don't pay for all of them because you haven't acknowledged most of them, right?
That's why I come on your show just to say hi to my kids.
There's Dad. We got to see Dad this year.
Time of the year.
Yeah, it's this day today and Father's Day, the only 2 days you can get Dave on the show. All right, we'll be back in just a moment or two. CliffCentral.com. It is a Tuesday morning. It's 24th of January already. We got lots to talk about, people to see, places to go, things to get into. We will do all of that and more in the next hour. Don't go away.
This week on the Auto Trader podcast.
But one of the things that you kind of spotlighted last year was buyers are going to be spending less time in physical dealerships and moving more online. Do you think that's something that actually happened? Do you see that happening more?
I don't think dealerships are going to go away.
Yeah.
Especially with used cars. Maybe new will move in that direction faster or more than used. But the thing about a used car is it's not a commodity. Every single used car in the market is a unique item on its own. One VW GTI is not the same as another used VW GTI. 100%. It's got different mileage, slightly different specs, different color maybe, different interior. It's
not like going to take a lot, right? And
exactly
ordering the same thing.
So in that world, I don't think dealerships will go anywhere, especially in the used car environment. Maybe to a certain degree the new. I mean, we've already seen that the number of dealership visits per consumer came down to about 1.6 at one stage.
Yeah.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
Just because it's about technology, connecting your business to the rest of the world doesn't mean you need to send rockets to space and use complicated solutions. Want to simplicate things? Well, join Jaco Voigt, who is the CEO of Catalytic, on the Unbundled podcast. With skin in the game and a keen focus on educating and assisting you and your business, Jaco decodes all the aspects of connectivity, security, and cloud solutions. Unbundled is brought to you by Catalytic and is available on CliffCentral.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. All right. It is Tuesday. We are live. Dave Levinson's with us. Mash is in the studio in Johannesburg, and we want to hear from you in the comments. You can also drop us a WhatsApp if you want to on 071-783-6214, especially if it's a voice note. And we'll play some of those from time to time. So drop us a voice note, 071-789-6214. Okay, so while we got Dave here, I think we were talking just a moment ago about like population explosions and population decline and all that kind of thing. Someone threw this in, and it forces me to just reflect on something I heard last week at Davos. If we push Al Gore into an active volcano, says Slippery Pickle, I believe it will appease the gods and solve climate change. If not, we can try others like Greta. So Al Gore was at Davos. Now, Al Gore and his book, An Inconvenient Truth, which I've got somewhere in this room. There's a book of Al Gore.
Is that not a picture of a bookshelf behind you?
No, it's a real thing.
Man, you must be clever. You'll read all those books. My God.
So I've got Al Gore's book. He told us that by 2009, I think, Venice would be completely underwater. The polar ice caps will have melted. The sea will have risen. And just by the way, just drop some ice in a glass and see when the ice melts if the water level actually goes up or down. Idiot.
I don't have time to do that.
Anyway, the point is
the drink is finished before.
Yeah, that's also a good point. But here's the deal, right? And Al Gore has just been a bullshit artist from day one. The fact that he still gets to stand up in front of crowds of people and they don't throw tomatoes at him is outrageous. This guy was talking at Davos last week and saying, the whole problem with the world is we're burning fossil fuels, blah, 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 which of course is a problem. We are burning fossil fuels and they're not necessarily good for the environment. But then he says this, he says, that's why the oceans are boiling. Now, I was in Cape Town for 3 days and I did see the ocean from Cape Town. And then I was in Durban for 3 days and I saw the ocean there. It's an Indian and Atlantic oceans, two different oceans. And neither of them were boiling. I just want to point that out. And we're in the middle of summer now. They're not in the Northern Hemisphere. So if there was any boiling to be done, it would have been Cape Town this week, for example, where it's been boiling hot in Durban as well. Anybody see the boiling oceans? Or is Al Gore just full of shit? Can we just agree that the former vice president of the United States has run out of juice? That he's
seen what he's getting paid for his foundation. He
in his head.
A royalty.
Well, of course, because people are paying him to keep talking this shit and destroying his own reputation. But honest to God, I mean, he has run out of the fossil fuels he wants us to run out of. He has nothing else to burn. He's throwing it all in the furnace now. The oceans are boiling. Who talks like that?
And then once again, The Simpsons predicted it. Did you ever see that episode where Lisa had to do her speech?
No.
And then
which one?
Al Gore thing. So she was on that ladder. You remember he had that massive giant ladder that he would walk up on the screen and it would show you that the graph is so big that it goes off the screen. So Lisa Simpson had to do it a lot. And then her little boyfriend that likes her was operating the ladder. So she kept going up and down and it fucked up her whole speech. But that means that the Simpsons already predicted then what they always do is that this whole thing is bullshit. Have you ever spoken to someone who's very knowledgeable about one thing?
Yeah.
You can't beat them. It often happens with fundamental Christians or something. They go, Dave, your problem is you don't go to church, you don't believe in God as your savior. And then you're like, okay, well, I like jungle oats. I can't speak to you if you only have the one thing. That means I can't change your mind. I can't argue with you.
Yeah.
It's kind of, if you ever meet Scientologists, or ever meet someone who really likes lizards, you fucked. You can't.
Flat earthers.
You can't flat earthers. You can't speak to them about heaven. What about others? Do you do other things? So that same thing. When you get a bee in your bonnet about one thing, you can become very famous for that thing.
Yeah.
Are you a Jordan Peterson fan, Gareth? Do you dig his vibe?
So I've interviewed Jordan once before, and I was in communication with his daughter for a little while to try and get him back on the show, but I've sort of let it slide because I mean I think Jordan Peterson's doing amazing work, and I know he went through a pretty rough.
I want you and him and me and Mash at a braai. Now how hectic is that going to be at a braai?
No, he's always hectic.
He has knowledge of that thing. So you say feminism, you say women's lib, you say population crisis, and he's in, bro. He's like he's ready to go at any point on that thing that he knows. We
need people like that. You've got to have somebody who can actually take on like dumb people and argue with them and beat them to death with the facts. You need that
because there's more of them. There's more of them.
Well, we live in a world where there's, everybody now suddenly thinks that they have an opinion and that other people give a shit about their opinions. Like you post something on the internet now and a bunch of like complete nobodies with 3 followers start telling you, yeah, you're wrong. I'll tell you why you're wrong. Like what those people just need to be shut up with is a giant foot trampling right on their heads. I'm terribly sorry, but not everybody's opinion counts.
So when you meet these people, do you often think to yourself, like, they are so knowledgeable, but isn't it great to also know that they can also shoot the breeze and talk about something else, which I think is a great.
I don't know. I mean, that's where I'm worried about, like, Jordan Peterson. I don't know if he'd be fun to have around. I mean, like, I think I'd rather be at a braai with you and Mash, just because I think we'd also talk a bit of shit and we'd laugh a little bit. And,
so apparently Einstein was like that. He was a fun dude to have around after.
Yeah, I think Jordan seems to me like he's very focused, and there's not a lot of time for, like, bullshit and like frivolous, stupid fun. And I need a bit of frivolous, stupid fun. I'll be honest with you. So I think he'd be hard work. He'd be heavy lifting. Plus, everyone would be, on their best behavior intellectually, because they'd be terrified that he'd call them out for using the wrong word, or for saying something that wasn't true, or for just taking on a belief that they couldn't back up. I think people would be very nervous around him, and I don't think he'd be fun at a braai. I must be honest with you.
So put those people in columns. How did Al Gore get to that point where he's now getting paid $2 million a week on a royalty from a stage show that he did, essentially, which was a talk? It's an hour-long talk.
If I knew that, Dave, I would be the one being paid $2 million. And I'd also take on some bullshit cause and pretend it was true and try to sell it.
But don't you remember on talk radio for that day? So you'd be the topic for the day. You'd have to kind of quickly learn about it. That would become the topic. So someone said, I think the animals are being killed. And you're like, okay, let's go. Rhinos. You became a knowledgeable person for 7,000 things. And now you're being forced to, because you're doing this, you now have to know about this one thing. What do you know most about?
That's why I'm grateful that I had the career that I had in my 20s and 30s, because I was forced to learn a little bit about a whole lot of things, so that when I talk to people, I can have a really fun time, because I've got just enough knowledge to kind of access the world of a specialist without actually knowing all the details. And then that specialist can teach me more when I talk to them. But I'm not...
You're open to new things.
Oh, all the time.
That's where the future, that's where the next round circle of knowledge is. If I'm trying to tell my kid that, it's like, there's stuff you don't know, which is the best part of not knowing.
If that ever changes, I hope you'll put a bullet in my head, because by then, like, you have to, if you're not curious, you don't want to keep learning. Mash, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I mean, it's important to keep learning, but not everything is worth learning. That's also important. There's a very fine line that we have to stick to. I mean, crossing that line, I would say on the other side is flat earth theory. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos about this. Just flat earth is getting trashed. I really enjoy that. There's certain things that you really don't need to waste your time learning. Is basically what I'm saying, because you're just gonna waste your time.
Have you ever been to a homeopath, Mash?
No, I've never been. What do they do?
Controversial. Well, they don't do anything. They just charge you and then they hum
for
over
you.
To
just hum. Is it like, it's not like Reiki, is it?
So do you know that flat earth was originally a marketing idea where someone said, if you market something properly and you package it properly, you can get people to believe it. Oh. And they said, like, what? So they got together in a club and said, let's think of the most controversial thing. And they came up with about 8 different things. But the flat earth was the cleverest one of them, where they said, take something that just blatantly isn't true, and let's market it and see if someone comes. So all you do is you put up a thing on the wall and say, tomorrow we're discussing the flat earth. So 3 or 4 people came to the lecture. And after that, so it was in the late 70s, they said, well, let's go. Now it's a thing. So we forget that it was just a piss take. Marketing. Is that true? At a college going, marketing, that's how it happened. It was just, let's talk about it. Let's see if someone believes it.
That is true, Gareth.
They can't get back to the actual details of the course, but it's almost like a little one of these, these homeschool marketing places where you learn how to design or you learn internet or code. That's how small that school was. Let's discuss that. Let's make up a thing.
Do you think we should have like penalties built into false advertising? Like, there are obviously, that you're forced to take down an ad that is blatantly untrue, and if you advertise like a product that has certain ingredients but it doesn't, then you obviously get sued. But if people make up like bullshit spin and marketing and they sell you bullshit and lies, do you think we should be able to have recourse against those people?
There's too many people though.
I don't think so, Gareth. I don't think so. I feel like if people are dumb enough to believe it, then it is their own problem. It's something they should be dealing with, and they should be getting themselves educated, because some of the bullshit that's spinning out here, it is so damn ridiculous. It's so dumb that
as time goes, it either gets diluted or it becomes more concentrated. The Holocaust hoax. Have you spoken to those people that go, it was an advertising campaign, it never happened? So when you look at it, you're like, how long ago was it? That wasn't long ago. That's in my grandparents' time.
Exactly.
So it's already been diluted, where someone has written a book saying it was a marketing thing. This is how it happened. And now you speak to that person, and you go, my God, what did I do here?
There are people who are like, oh no, 9/11 was all bullshit. None of those people died. Well, someone go and tell that family that are living without a dad. You know, just go and tell them it was a bullshit story. I'd like to see.
How do you find those people? Because they believe it. They go, well, it never happened. So you can't find them. So it's the same as saying to Pioneer Foods, because they or the Johnson & Johnson for putting asbestos in the baby powder. That's a real fine.
Yeah.
Yet it's still.
Ndipiwe says quite rightly that whole white monopoly capital thing, which was completely made up by Bell Pottinger. And even though it's been debunked and Bell Pottinger admitted they made it up as a bullshit thing, even though they did that, there are still people going around in South Africa, political leaders like Julius Malema, who are saying, oh no, white monopoly capital is a thing.
What happens in 30 years' time when we are told to wear masks again? So my generation is going to say to those, so that kid hasn't been born yet. They're like going to be 5 or 6 or 7. They're going to wear masks. And I'm saying, guys, don't wear the mask. It's not going to change anything. They go, no, but we have to wear them. And you're like, no, let me tell you, back in 2019 in March. So they're going to say, Granddad, you're fucking old. You're 80. What are you talking about? I'm like, let me tell you, they made up this thing and we all had to be locked in our houses. And that's why Granddad lives with you.
Well,
absolutely.
Let me show you something quickly. We haven't done this for a while, but here is the lowest point in the medical fraternity's entire history. You know, we've always held doctors in high esteem. And if you think about it, when you got high marks at school, people immediately said to you, become a doctor, because that's a respectable profession. You'll earn good money. It's, you know, people will call
if you got low marks, become a comedian.
Well, yeah. Or start a podcast or something. So here's what, let's just cast our minds back, because it wasn't so long ago. This is what doctors were doing. Serious medical professionals were doing 2 years ago. Just have a look, and let's just all take in how embarrassing and how badly this is dated. Okay, let's look at this, see how badly this has looked in retrospect. You ready?
Is going to get worse.
I'm just going to stop it there, because I actually can't watch that without being just so embarrassed for those people. These were serious medical people, and 2 years ago, that was what they were doing. And we were all going, clap for the NHS if you were in Britain.
Have you seen the NHS riots now, where we remember they used to parade through the streets and clap for them? Now that they're going, hang on a minute, we're not getting any money. They're like, oh shit, sorry.
Was that a real dead body?
No, man. It was just such bullshit. So that was just when the pandemic had begun, and everybody was like, pray for the doctors, and the doctors are amazing. And look at this stupidity. I just want you to remember it, because it's only that, two years ago, and people have already forgotten what that was. It's dumb.
So do you remember in Durban, or KZN, there was those riots in the warehouses and things? A lot of people were asking the guys, why are you at the riot? They didn't realize it was because of Jacob Zuma's trial, or like you said, because of the school things. But when the guy was putting that big TV in the back of his Toyota Taz, there was no way that he was putting that TV in there because Jacob Zuma was in court.
Yeah.
Of course. It's just like Significant says, it's so cringy. Jerusalem challenge, says KB. You remember that? That was awful. Mongezi says super cringe. Yeah, remember that? Oh my God. How absolutely abominable.
Oh, Jerusalem challenge wasn't that cringe.
No, so bad. So bad. All right. We got to move on to a couple of other things, because Dave's only with us until past. You had you wanted to vent about something, Dave. You wanted to talk a little bit about what the Soccer World Cup hoax.
No, it wasn't that. Did you watch that FIFA documentary? And it's something that made me realize that we give so much power to someone when they've got the right title. So
What do you-
FIFA's not. I thought FIFA was 100 years old. It was invented now in like the late 60s. And do you remember when they came here in 2010? The streets were clean. The homeless people were gone. We weren't allowed to drink. We had to drink Pepsi and Budweiser, and it's like this powerful government.
Sure, right.
And have you watched that documentary? How they sort of came about, the powerful thing.
I didn't. But why you like? You're a bit late, Dave. I mean,
no, I'm a bit late. But I watched that other one, the one in Saudi Arabia. Also, it just made me angry just watching this thing. They built this tower of the people that had died making the stadium. The tower was higher than.
Dave, it's
so weird.
It's in the past, Dave. It's like the
for sure, like but it's not good. It's going to come back. It's cringy. Imagine saying to someone, "What are you doing?" Like, I built a stadium. Where's my dad? Well, he died building the stadium, but they made a tower.
God. All right, so you're still upset
about my biggest gripe was the wokeness, because I have young people coming to my shows, and a lady came to me afterwards, and I would say young, maybe 19, and she said, I can't put my finger on it, but I feel that your joke was racist. So I said, well, it either is or it isn't.
Oh, wow. She feels that, huh?
Yeah, I feel that's what she said. She said was, I think I'm offended. That's what she said afterwards. She said, I can't put my finger on it, but I think I'm offended.
But I don't know why.
And did you pretend to care?
No, but as you get older as a comedian, your skin's so thick you don't care anymore, because you're not really. Once I've done the joke, I'm out. Yeah. I really don't know enough. If you ask me 3 more questions after that joke, I wouldn't be able to tell you anything. I saw the headline. We comedians are we're the headline people, so we see the thing.
Are you worried about when people film your shows and then they take something out of context, which has happened to so many?
That's going to happen. That's going to happen anyway. That's in the cancel culture of it. So I'll ask people, I say, look, if you film me, put the whole thing on. Don't just put half of it on. Yeah. So I spoke about a thing once. A journalist came into a show about 2 hours late, saw me on stage, and if I'm the headliner, that means I'm the last act. But her review was of the whole show. So that means that her friend had told her, well, Louisa was on, and then so-and-so was on, and then Dave was on. But she saw me talking about a guy who had put clitorises in his fridge in Bloemfontein or something, and he was in court for having, so it's female mutilation story. It's not hilariously funny. But by the time she walked in there, I was on to the funny part of the story. So I tell the truth about this, and this guy's in court. He's got clitorises in his fridge. And then she walks in afterwards when I'm doing my callback. You understand how comedy works. You've got to have your callback and your setup.
Sure.
Yeah. So she goes, Dave Levinson's crude, and he's all just toilet humor, and he was disgusting talking about clitorises in the fridge. So I'm like, well, look it up. That really happened. The guy's in jail now for doing that. And he was operating an illegal female mutilation.
It was in Bloemfontein, wasn't it?
It was. And he's not from this, well, he's Belgian or something. I don't want to do the whole story, but the fact is, as you said, if she had been filming that, she would have only seen the joke about it. It does get quite cut out of hand, where if you put clitorises in your fridge, you've got to burp the lid.
Just quickly just to be serious for a second, because you're going shortly, but do you feel like comedians are tiptoeing around this wokeness because they shit scared of being cancelled?
So do you know Justin Nurse from Laugh-It-Off, when he got into trouble for the T-shirts with SAB? The whole thing. Yeah. We wrote a play for Grahamstown that never happened. Where this is 2003. We wrote a play where jokes became illegal. So you couldn't tell a joke. You couldn't even do something that was funny, because the police around you, sort of Nazi, kind of sort of Pink Floyd-y, leather jackets would come and take you away. And the comedians disappeared. They started disappearing. So what happened was these underground clubs formed, and that was the premise of the play. That's happening. And I'm looking at Justin and this play should have been out, because what happened is there were underground clubs, and you couldn't even do knock-knock jokes. So if you know, when some people come to your door and they go, knock, knock, and you're like, and then you would get arrested, because they're like, what are you doing? Are you doing a knock-knock joke? So the policing became from the people policing you. There was no need for police, because if you told a joke, you say, hey man, this guy walks into a bar. Well, is he a Muslim? Is he Greek? Is he French?
And that's happening now. That's already happened.
So as a comedian, I'm pretty fucked with that, because I'm quite crude and I have no filter, which makes me funny.
Isn't that why there are no comedy clubs?
Possibly. So COVID also killed the funny.
No, but I mean, if you think about it, like, people are desperate to laugh because they love laughing, and laughter is one of the best things for sorting out your mental health, for making you feel physically better, to get you out there and mix with other people. Laughter is how you know you're with friends.
So where do people get their laughter from these days? If you watch someone on their phones, what are they watching? They're watching reels.
But this is my
Have
point.
you seen how they scroll through those reels?
I reckon that if you owned a comedy venue and Dave Levinsohn comes along and he says something which some woke idiot doesn't like, and they then decide that they're going to go after Dave Levinsohn, but they also go after the comedy venue, why would you take that risk as a comedy venue? You're like, I don't want to be wrapped up in letting 10 guys or girls a night stand up there and say whatever's on their mind, and then I get like shut down as a venue because these guys are saying something.
Never got involved in your content. He would come to you after and say, listen, you went over time. That was literally what he would say to you. He'd never ever said, I didn't like what you said.
You think someone on Twitter knows that there's a line there? They don't. They think it's the same thing.
No, we've got to cancel Dave, but we've also got to close down that venue because they hosted
Close down the
Dave.
venue. Yeah. So there's 40 jobs of waiters and waitresses and
A platform.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have given Dave a platform.
How dare they? Yeah.
So I don't think my stuff is on a woke level yet, because I really do. I don't know if you've seen my comedy. I talk absolute shit. There is nothing. If you've taken my comedy seriously, you weren't listening. Because it comes from my sense of humor comes from my uncle telling the most weirdest dad jokes, and my gran who thought farts were funny. So that's my sense of humor. But I have seen some comedians who say something.
Dave, we get you on the show because you're so highbrow. That's what we want.
So if you take that cancel culture, comedians are going to be the front line. But then there should be way more people saying really hectic things, going, well, how did you cancel John Smith there for doing his thing when he said that thing on the beach? Or where are those two guys in Clarksdorp who beat up those two little guys that wanted to swim? That's your cancel culture. But then everyone goes, it's the influence around them. That's what caused it.
Yeah.
If I speak to someone who's a racist now, and I'm like, but you're 20. You weren't even here during a party. Where are you getting this from?
Mom and dad. And Oma and Opa. Yeah.
Dave Zo, please don't let him take that picture from the Just Now Comedy podcast. We're taking it with us to the new studios. And it's good to have you there before we move, dude. And
I'm taking this.
You can take the little sample.
It is actually mine. We used to have Breakfast Beer Club. I don't know if you remember.
I'm so glad I don't remember. We'll catch up with you soon, and good to see you, Dave. Always good. Thank you, my friend.
Always good. Thanks, guys. Cheers. Goodbye, Mash.
Cheers, Dave.
Goodbye, Ryan.
The great Dave Levinsohn. What a guy. He is. It's terrific. Listen to him laughing like he doesn't know it's true. All right. So listen, Phil Coetzer. You've known him from probably about 2.5 years ago already, when we started talking to him from Wit Motors, and that is in none other than Mpumalanga. If you haven't been out in Mpumalanga and you haven't bought a beautiful car from him and you have the money in your pocket, what the hell are you doing? But we'll talk to you in a moment about what's going on with Phil and what's going on with Mercedes-Benz, which is obviously what they sell at the Wit Motors dealership. But we're also going to bring to you this morning the CEO of Mercedes-Benz South Africa, co-CEO Mark Raine. He's also executive director at Mercedes-Benz Cars. I'm thrilled to have him on with us this morning. But first of all, Phil, how are you doing?
Morning, Mesh. Morning, Gareth. How are you guys?
Nice to see you, Phil. Been a while.
Excellent. Been a while, yes. Yeah. Compliments of the season, if we're still allowed to say that. So,
I know. I was going to say to you, if we're allowed to say Happy New Year, then Happy New Year. And Mark Raine, what a pleasure to have you on. Good to see you, Mark. Mark, can you hear us?
Gareth. Thank you for having me on the show. Happy New Year.
Very good. Very, very good. Nice to see you both.
Okay.
Right. Perfect. There's a little bit of a delay, but it's not the end of the world. So let's just give a little bit of background here. Mark joined Mercedes-Benz in 2002 and started his career overseas at the sales planning department. After that, various stations. I mean, you what, the youngest co-CEO in Mercedes-Benz history or something, aren't you?
I'm not sure, but in comparison to my peer group, I'm certainly on the younger generation in terms of the CEOs in Mercedes-Benz globally. And very happy to be back in South Africa.
All right, we got a bit of a delay there. Let's just see. I want to ask Ryan if you can just try and sort out Mark's connection in the meantime. So, Phil, we've also got to catch up with you because we've got to talk about plenty of the things that have been happening in the car industry, and we'll talk about all of those in just a moment or two. But first things first, are people buying cars, Phil, and are people buying and selling cars, most importantly?
Yes, sure, Gareth. I think, one of the CEOs also once said, the sun will rise, the sun will set, and people will buy cars. So I guess we just need to go on. Obviously, we had some obstacles in the last couple of years with, you're all aware of the semiconductors and so forth, but touch wood, I think most of that has been resolved. So yes, we're going on, and we're positive, and we're looking forward to 23. Yeah.
All right, Mark, let me ask you a couple of questions. First of all, I believe we are building the C-Class in South Africa, and you guys have spent an enormous amount of money and investment in South Africa. This is something worth boasting about. So tell us about Mercedes-Benz in South Africa and what your involvement is. You're on mute, Mark. I think you're on mute. Just unmute yourself. There we go. Sorry, missed that. There we go. Okay, so tell us about Mercedes-Benz in South Africa.
We are very proud of the state of our production plant in South Africa, in East London. We've invested over the last years in order to make a basically benchmark globally, and the C-Class is being exported to all countries around the world, including China. And especially we can produce the entire product portfolio of the C-Class, including diesel, petrol cars, hybrids, our latest additions, our performance luxury cars, our AMGs. And that really makes us proud out of Africa for the world.
Is that, I've heard the number between 8,000 and 11,000 units a month. Is that correct?
Wow.
Yeah. In December, we exported over 11,000 units out of the East London plant. And we have actually these capacities installed to cater for the entire world in terms of C-Class demand.
That's phenomenal. I mean, a lot of people would say, oh, well, South Africa is not a great investment destination. And yet there are companies like Mercedes-Benz who are investing an enormous amount of money. And I think that that's a very, very positive thing. It's something we should be very proud of as South Africans.
Yeah, and I mean, we've got a long legacy in the country, and our East London plant has been there for over 60 years. And right. We really cherish this legacy, and together with our partners also in our South African market, like for instance the Wit Motors.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that for a second, because I met you. Sorry, I spoke over you there, but I was going to ask you. I met you through Phil. We actually met at Mercedes-Benz offices here in Pretoria. Phil and Mark, how does it work between the dealers and Mercedes-Benz head office? Just from the point of view of clients and people who are buying cars, how exactly does the relationship work? Mark, you start, and then Phil, you can fill in the gaps.
I mean, at the beginning, I've been in many countries around the world, and the partnership between us, Mercedes-Benz South Africa, and network in South Africa is particularly strong. We call it the spirit of the partnership, and you can basically cross a bridge if you've got this strong relationship. And that has been built over years, and since I've been in the market, I'm trying to continue that and extend that even. And it works on close-knit communication, on exchange and alignment, bringing everybody to the table and to the party in order to ensure that we find the best solutions. And it's also defining a common strategy, which always looks at a customer centricity and a market adequate approach to South Africa. And we're very proud of that and continuously working on that.
Yeah, Phil, I mean, you obviously come through to Pretoria often because that's when I get to see you. And you're often in meetings with Mark. I mean, this is the kind of partnership that makes it better for customers. It makes it easier for customers. And you guys are in the same business because you're trying to sell cars, right?
100%. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we've got similar goals at the dealer network and Mercedes-Benz South Africa. We want to sell more cars and keep our customers happy in the Mercedes-Benz family. So there's a lot of manufacturers where they will treat the dealer network in more of a dictatorship attitude, and this is not only because Mark is here, but this is not the case with Mercedes-Benz South Africa. As Mark mentioned, our slogan is the spirits of the partnership, and it's as we work together. I mean, this is obviously the most desired synergy we can both wish for. So I believe that the communication should be open between the network and the manufacturer, and everybody can speak up to embrace the common goal at the end of selling more cars and keeping our customers happy.
So Phil, while I'm talking to you, how does it work when you place an order for a vehicle?
So yes, Gareth, yeah, it's quite a detailed process, but to make it easy, I mean, there will be vehicles in stock, which is on the showroom floor, as you can see in the back. Those vehicles will be available immediately. So someone can phone in or walk in and purchase the vehicle. Then obviously, if the vehicle's not available, the exact vehicle you need, you can place a back order with us, or we've got stock arriving, I will say monthly or bi-monthly in the country where we can also pick from. Then if you desire a specific vehicle, the waiting time is probably between 3 and 6 months, depending on your optional extras, where the factory or the manufacturer is based for that specific model. So in other words, it will take a little bit longer to get a vehicle that's manufactured in Tuscaloosa in USA than the C-Class that's manufactured in East London. So yeah, that's more or less how it works. And then I can go in detail into the system, but I think it's going to bore everyone.
So Mark, what about the Mercedes brand? I mean, when we talk about ordering a car, you know, if someone wants a Mercedes, they've probably decided that already, and then they'll go online and they'll look at it and they'll play with the different options of what kind of interior, exterior, what sort of extras. It really is a luxury experience, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, we're very proud of our legacy being the inventor of the automobile and probably having the strongest luxury brand in the automotive industry. And as Phil has already alluded to, the personalization and the customization of the cars to meet the exact demands and requirements of our customer is key. And that's why we carry, on the one hand, such a wide portfolio, but also give the opportunity to our customers to really define and customize their own personal Mercedes-Benz to their liking. And it is an experience, and everybody, I mean, you don't buy a car every day, and especially in the luxury segment, it's a big decision, and it's an emotional attachment for most people, and guiding the right vehicle is important. And that's why we also invest a lot together in our people, in our salespeople, in our product experts, in order to consult to them the right car, and we take great pride in that, and also making sure that we have the best solutions for our customers in all aspects.
Wow. What I love, and I can speak here from experience, is I've driven a number of these cars. I mean, Phil, just fill in again. I'm using Phil as the joke here. Fill in where I've left anything out here. But we've got I've driven the GLE, I've driven the GLC, I've driven the X Class, which is also very cool. And people don't know the Buckies are there. You got the C Class. I'm currently driving a C Class AMG. I remember when we went on that advanced driving course at Swartkorp. You remember that, Phil?
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Then I also drove GLS. Well, I didn't drive the Maybach, but I got into it. I drove the EQC, which is amazing. It's the electric car. A GT63 AMG, which is like my favorite car of all time. And I think we also drove the A45 and the C63. So, I mean, just absolutely amazing cars. Amazing. So I've pretty much been through your range there, Mark, and I can tell you it's superior in every way.
Well, Mark, Gareth still needs to drive the current or newly launched EV range or EQ range. So I think that's next on the cards. I mean, we had our dealer conference now last week, Wednesday, Thursday, and I mean, obviously we've got the whole range there from EQA to EQS.
Wow.
So I mean, I'm so excited about those products. Yes.
Didn't you just drive the EQS?
100%. Yeah, Mark didn't know, so we can't actually talk about this. So I just took the EQS. It's the 53 AMGs just around the block, and it's unreal. I mean, it's 950 Newton meters, and I've never driven anything like this before. So 4MATIC, so you don't have the ESP problem or where the wheels will slide in the back. It's unreal.
Phenomenal.
Sure.
Mark, what are you driving at the moment, Mark? I mean, when people ask you as the CEO of Mercedes-Benz South Africa, what do you drive? Do you drive different cars every week?
I'm obviously in the fortunate situation that I can drive our entire portfolio. At the moment, my car of choice is the S-Class. It's our pinnacle of the luxury. It's the top of the range. I'm waiting actually that we get a few more EQS in the country that I can switch over to the EQS, because I'm a huge fan of electric cars and especially our EQ range. The demand has been so great on the EQs that unfortunately I had to pass on my allocation to a fortunate customer. But I mean, I remember, Gareth, when we met for the first time and you just took delivery of your new C-Class, the excitement you had. And for instance, the C-Class, which is locally produced, we call the baby S-Class, because it's basically the S-Class just in slightly look in the same value and has the same features. If you look at our entire range, if it's our Mercedes-Benz, if it's our Mercedes AMGs, our Mercedes Maybach, Mercedes EQ, they all have their distinct features and benefits, and that makes it so exciting and why people are so passionate about it as well.
Listen, I have to tell you all, Mash, you'll love this too. I was at my little nephew's birthday last night, and it's just down the road here. We went to the nearest restaurant, and he's just turned 9, but his little brother is 6. And he said, "Can't you give me a lift home?" The little brother. So I took him home in your C-Class, Phil, and you can change the color of the interior, right? Now, it's a little thing. I mean, it's probably something that adults shouldn't even talk about, but this little kid was blown away by the fact that I would go, "Hey, Mercedes," and then the car would go, "How can I help you?" And I go, "Change color to purple." And then this little kid's eyes virtually popped out of his head. Now, his dad has driven all kinds of really exciting cars, but he was more blown away by this than anything else. And it's little things like that, I suppose, that do make the difference. You talk about the C-Class being like a mini S-Class. You don't feel like there's any luxury that's missing while you're driving this thing. It's a phenomenal feat of engineering, first of all, to produce cars that are this reliable, this fuel efficient, it has to be said. Right, Phil? I mean, that's one of the things that really impressed both of us.
100%, yeah. So this is why we're excited that the Mini S-Class is manufactured in South Africa. And yeah, I mean, so we are planning to sell quite a bit this year. And it's if you've driven the vehicle, I mean, road silence, I mean, luxury, I mean, you would know we call it the MBUX, the media interface and the screens and so forth, touch screens. It's high-end tech. So we love it. And the fuel consumption, you driving the diesel as well, I believe?
Yep.
I can't remember.
Yep.
Yeah,
yep,
fuel consumption with diesel is phenomenal as well. So that's also one of our main selling points.
Okay, so Mark and Phil, when people buy cars these days, we know that a lot of people are buying them online, but a lot of people like to actually go into the dealership and kick the tires and check out the car and do a test drive. What sort of trends are we seeing there? Mark, what do you think is happening in the world where, you know, customers can buy from anywhere, for anywhere? I mean, Phil has customers all over the country, even though he's based in Ermelo.
I mean, it's about accessibility and customer convenience. I mean, we now all live in this omni-channel digital world where we expect everything to be right there, right then, and we've catered to that, because especially our customers are mostly very sacrificed time. So making sure that we cater for them in the best possible way is important. And I always say that the virtual digital channel online, so every customer can go see dealers like Phil and really experience all the glory of our Mercedes-Benz, touch and feel, and really get that product experience. Also for us, it's very important that customers actually test drive the vehicles at our dealership in order to make an educated right choice. But having the opportunity and the convenience to research and to look at cars from the comfort of your home, from your couch, and then also potentially purchase from home is very, very important. And we call that an omni-channel strategy, which we've defined together with our network here in South Africa, that it's not exclusive, but really complementing each other.
Yes,
Phil?
and yes, Mark, and obviously, so I think one of the things that made the online journey easier or possible is the model that we've moved on to, which is called the net pricing model. We as South Africa is proud to say that we are the first country to launch the agency model, where the vehicles we carry at the moment is on consignment. So we don't own the vehicles. The vehicles are owned by Mercedes-Benz South Africa. And that's more or less the model, if I could put like an iPhone, where iPhone will cost you 15,000 Rand on either the Take-A-Lot, Incredible Connection, iStore, and so forth. That's more or less the model we've got in South Africa with Mercedes-Benz. And that's also making the omni-channel that Mark referred to, or the online journey, possible, where you can get the vehicle at any dealership for more or less the same price, or for exactly the same price, for that matter.
Yeah, well, I've got to say, your website's looking very sexy there, Phil. Devitz.co.za, if you want to go and check that out too. You can go and see all the cars that Phil has in stock at the moment. And if you want something, they can always find it. All right, so Mark, let's just talk for a second about what's going in the future, because you mentioned EVs, and this is obviously a big part of your strategy for Mercedes-Benz, both internationally and here. First of all, how does it work between you and Germany in terms of, like, when it comes to decisions, orders, all of that kind of thing? How much autonomy do you have here, knowing this market better than they can know there? But also, what's the story with EVs? They're obviously hugely popular all over the world, but what does it look like market-wise here in South Africa?
I mean, next to our brand, the product which we have are the core of everything we do, because I mean, obviously the product fascinate our customers, and that's why the buying decision they make. And we're very proud because we've defined together with our network here in South Africa a strategy, and an integral part of it is the product offensive. And last year we launched 9 vehicles to South Africa, so really pushing boundaries for the South African market. And 4 of those were our new Mercedes EQ range, with the EQB, the EQC, and the EQS, which EQS being the equivalent to the S-Class in the electric vehicle range from Mercedes-Benz. And you mentioned you've driven the EQC. I'm actually gutted, because I need to invite you to drive all the others, because once you get into those cars, you love your C-Class, but you probably wouldn't want to switch back. The driving experience of electric vehicles is just on another. It has, on the one hand, all the luxuries and all the features which you're used to from Mercedes-Benz, but the electric vehicle driving is just mind-blowing and out of this world. Phil said he sneaked himself into a EQS last week. I've been fortunate enough to test our entire portfolio. It's just it's superb. And last week we brought the newest electric vehicle from Mercedes EQ to the market, which is the EQE, which probably you can say it's our luxury limousine, it's probably one size the seat. And we're very excited. We're pushing that agenda forward. We believe that's really the future of the automotive industry. E-mobility is taking the world by storm. We're going to launch another 2 electric vehicles this year, the EQS SUV and the EQE SUV, which we're very proud, because the SUV trend in South Africa is really gaining momentum. And right. I mean, I need to address the elephant in the room. Everybody asks me, well, in South Africa, how can you think about electric vehicles? And I'm personally actually so convinced that for South Africa especially, electric vehicle makes sense, because many, especially in the Mercedes-Benz segment, many customers have either gone off the grid or are thinking about going off the grid. And then electric vehicle driving, or e-mobility as we call it, makes so much more sense, because you actually save so much money per month while having also that superior driving experience.
Yeah.
Well, the last word on this, Phil, it looks like there's always action at the dealership, and you're there bright and early this morning, so there's going to be people pouring in. So just tell us quickly, if you've heard anything this morning that made you think, this is the perfect time. It's January, it's a new year, it's time for a new car, it's time for me to trade in something old and get something new. Maybe you heard something that Mark said and it made you excited about a particular model. How do we get hold of you, Phil, and how can people place their orders from anywhere in South Africa?
Sure. Yes. Thanks, Gareth. No, yeah, they can visit it on our website. It's dewits.co.za, or they can phone me personally. My contact details are also on the website, so they're more than welcome to phone me on my cell phone or send me an email. I'm available 24/7. Yeah.
Fantastic. Mark, good luck. I mean, it's a really, really big job that you've got running such an important brand in South Africa. We're thrilled that you are at Mercedes-Benz such believers in this country, that you've got factories, that you've made investments, that you're making one of the most beautiful cars in the world right here from top to tail. And I hope that we'll see more of you, and good luck to you for the rest of this year. I hope it's going to be a really successful one for both of you, Phil and you, Mark.
Thanks, Gareth. Thanks, Mesh.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you very much for having me on the show. What Philip has said. Come visit at our showrooms and test drive all our new fantastic products.
Marvelous. Thank you so much. There's Mark Raine, who's the co-CEO of Mercedes-Benz South Africa, Phil Coetzer from Wit Motors, and lots of car info for those people who can't get enough. And it's always good to check in with those two. I mean, I met Mark a while ago, and I said to Phil, why don't we just get him on the show with us? And he's like, I can make that happen. And look at it. Made it happen. So listen, we've got lots of stuff to do in this week. We're moving offices, and I'm very excited to take you on a tour of the new offices as soon as we're there. But we're also in the studio for the last time on Thursday morning for the Burning Platform. So stick around for that with Pumi. As always, we'll try and bring you the most interesting and insightful guests on all kinds of things, including news, including current affairs, including, I don't know, nonsense with Dave Levinsohn, and cars with Mark Raine and Phil Coetzer. So we try to bring you a good mix of everything. Right, Mash?
I must say, Gareth, now I kind of want a Mercedes. I kind of do now. Yeah, you know what? I will make it happen. I'm manifesting it right now.
Mercedes.
Yay. My family is going to be like born, and now we want 200K black tax if I come in with that. But
no, it's going to be the black tax on that car is insane. But you have driven with me before, so you've seen what it looks like inside.
Yes, it is. It's like a spaceship. It is just an experience. I'm really excited. I'm really excited to get into one.
I was thinking, I'm sure you'll agree with me, that like people are so obsessed with the outside of a car and how it looks, and I'm one of those people. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I'm no petrol head. I can't have a conversation with George Meany where I'm like, toe to toe with him in the discussion around the car. There are lots of other people. Jonathan Witt, I know, is a major car fan, and you talk to some people about cars, and they get into the technicalities and the specifics. I mean, Phil was talking about that EQS and how it goes at how many, I don't know, 1,000 Newton meters. I don't know what that means. But what I know is when I'm sitting in a car and driving it, and it feels to me like, it can go where it needs to go. It's consistent. It's reliable. It's safe. It's comfortable. I mean, what more do you want?
I mean, all that matters for me in a car, to be honest with you, Gareth, it is the way the way it looks, and also the comfort. You're paying for comfort. I always say money buys you comfort these days. The more money you have, the more comfortable you are. The S-Class, the EQS. I was actually watching a YouTube video about the EQS the other day, and the comfort features in this car with that, they call it a hyper screen in the car, where the screen just stretches across the whole dashboard, and your passenger has their own screen as well. And the seats are massaging, they're ventilated. Just comfort. That's all I need. That's all I need. My car can actually look like a piece of crap on the outside if I want to go for some piece of crap, but comfort. That's what it's all about.
All right. Well, we got lots more exciting stuff to tell you this week about the new move, about the new studios. I'm going to be checking in there just a little bit later on to make sure that everything's on track. But we'll be busy. So we got to go.
Yeah.
We will see you tomorrow at 6 a.m. bright and early. Mash, thank you very much. I know you didn't get a word in edgewise with Dave this morning and me, and we were in full flight. And then we had Phil and Mark. So it's been pretty crazy. But we will see you tomorrow, and have an awesome Tuesday, everybody. Cheers. Bye-bye.